Let me have a look.
It's tough because we said best of all time in Irish managers. So there's 3 or 4 you could pick, but then again, I'm like, geez, do I want to put them into the ranks of best of all time? But yeah, I think the next one, it was between Mickey Hart, another GAA manager I know, and Eamon Ryan. I thought Eamon Ryan from Cork, incredible what he's done.
Very good shout, actually.
Yeah, and I think he is what you think charismatic is like, and he was such a father figure to all those girls in Cork for so long, and they speak about him like that. Like when you hear them talk about that man, it's like, yeah, he was a second dad to all of them, and yeah, what he achieved was amazing. 10 All-Irelands in 11 years, incredible stuff. So him and Mickey Hart, obviously we know Mickey Hart, and I think, yeah, he just had that aura about him as well, and he'd been there for so long with Tyrone and what they achieved. So yeah, there's only a certain amount of people that you'll really pick for this type of thing. Like you have to have a certain energy about you. And
did you consider Martin O'Neill because of his success at Celtic?
Yes, but I didn't know for his success in Ireland. I didn't know if it.
You could be charismatic.
This is as tangible, like as
you said Irish managers.
Yeah.
So
Irish.
Sorry, and he could have been outside. I thought it was. I thought it was of Ireland. Right, I don't know.
Well,
I got the assignment wrong.
Well, you might have got it wrong, but you got it way better than this guy.
I understood the assignment from what you said to me originally. But did you?
I thought he had to be a manager of Ireland. I know he has been, but I didn't think his time. Yeah.
With that considered now, would you include him in the 3, or would he still not make the 3, Martin O'Neill? Your 3 choices.
Yeah, for what he did. Yeah, I definitely
he'd be in his number.
And who would you take out? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but who would
I had honourable mentions for Eamon Ryan and Mickey Hart. I thought they deserved to be mentioned, but I probably would have put...
Yeah,
that's a great choice.
I probably would definitely have Martin O'Neill if I had known the assignment properly.
That's okay, actually. That's all right. Don't be too hard on yourself.
No, Adrian, look, you came up with the assignment, and I think no. I think it's only fair. I think it's only fair that you go second.
I'm very happy to do that.
It's only fair.
I will say that there are so many tips to the cap, and you hit on a point there about the documentary in relation to Miko. I do think actually public access to some of these people was definitely a factor, and at least two of the ones that I have had documentaries made about them. I've kind of a list of 4, to be honest, that I'm sort of not really sure who I should leave off. But Paddy O'Shea, as we mentioned in the office beforehand, and almost everybody in the office went, you've Paddy O'Shea, haven't you? Paddy O'Shea, when it comes to charisma, success is another sort of factor that I think should be in here, because I think if you remove the success aspect, suddenly the breadth of selections becomes a monster. So I think you do probably have to arbitrarily throw success into the mix there as well. And Paddy definitely had that amazing.
Oh, unbelievable. Character. I've been down to the Paddy O'Shea tournament so many times, and the stories, there's different stories each and every year, because he was that type of person. Even to tell a story, he was brilliant at telling stories as well.
You mentioned Mako earlier. I remember it was the early 2000s when Mako was with Laois, and it must have been the 2004 series or one of those where I was went in to cover the press conference. It was in Bank of Ireland HQ in Ballsbridge, and people were in a bit early. I was in a bit early, and I had met Mako. It might have been the press conference for the replay, or else I'd met him at the semi-final, where I'd gone into it was still in the days where you could go into the dressing room, and I went in and he was there in his Y-fronts, and I was like respectfully waiting for him to get dressed before I turned the microphone on for whatever reason, and he went, no, bash away. So it was like a sort of a weird conversation. But when I went in a bit early, I didn't sort of strike up a conversation with him. He came over to me and he went, you have the bag with you today, or something like this, and we started chatting. So we were sat at 2 seats, and after a few minutes Miall and Hartig came in and sat in the other seat, and obviously the two lads would have known each other really well. They were chatting away, and after a few more minutes, Paddy came in and he sat in the 4th seat, and there was me with a front row,
looking around going.
And they were mostly chatting Irish, so it was totally lost to me, but it was also very cool.
Brilliant.
Paddy's in there, Jack Charlton is in there, Big Jack is in there. I think you can't get through a list like this without Big Jack being on there.
Why I didn't pick him, I said it to you before. Obviously, it's before my time, but I said it to you. He'd have to be nearly number one. Watching back on him.
I think when it comes to charisma and success and what he did for the country and all that stuff, he's got to be on there. It's self-explanatory. One very left field call, I think, Roddy Collins.
Yeah, that's a great shout.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Obviously in the news a bit at the minute, sort of book has been launched, but I think when it comes to charisma, you can absolutely include him on the success front. He's the double with balls in the bag, so that takes the box there. And I just think it's like, if you think about, I think about who would I like to go for a beer with?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's in that. And Ronan O'Gara is my other.
That's completely blanked on Raj.
No, we didn't get the
thought, like, I would have thought Roy Keane, Ronan O'Gara, Ashley, come on.
Roy Keane. Than Raj. Oh my God.
Raj,
he'd definitely be in my 3. I have a bit of a decision to make now.
Go on now.
It's funny because I was just thinking of Raj as the player.
Go on.
Get
the obvious one out of the way now. Let's go.
Can you just...
Go on, get the obvious one out of the way.
Can you just answer me this question, please? Did you ever interview Roddy?
Yeah, I would have done, because he would have been on very regularly with us.
Yeah.
A number of years ago, yeah. Very interesting, very entertaining.
And is that
quite
the
knuckle right entertaining?
And is that the primary reason he's on? This is pure entertainment value, or is it a bit of a tip to the cap of his success? Because you mentioned with Bowles,
the Bowles thing doesn't exist. You can't include him in the list for example.
That was going to say.
He obviously had to have something to achieve that. So no, that's why he's in there. I mean, who knows what he was? I don't know what he was like in a dressing room, but like, you can just imagine. Obviously, the documentary is another part of that. The Rod Squad is obviously there. It's on the record. It's brilliant. It's amazing. So, yeah. That's where I'm going. I've loads of tips for the caps as well, but I'm not going to get into them. So, come on. What have you got?
I'm going to put Jack Charlton, myself.
Yeah.
I think I have to have him, because if you look back in that Finding Jack documentary
Yeah, come on.
Well, I was really annoyed that you picked that. But if you look back in that Finding Jack documentary, like, you know, his demise is so sad at the end. You know, did you see that documentary? And, you know, Paul McGrath pops up on screen and he recognises him momentarily, and you just get a little glimpse of what he was like when he was Ireland manager. But it's not just a success. Like, obviously, like Euro 88, Italy 90, USA 94, brilliant. Like, there's touchstones in Irish culture in general, not just sport. And look, it was kind of agricultural football sometimes, and it wasn't very attractive. And by the end, it became a bit archaic when they lost to the Netherlands at Anfield in late 1995, which was his last match. But if you look back at just his great moments, like when he got appointed and he was holding cards to all the print journalists and saying, like, now you know that I can talk, but can I manage? And just to say something like that, and you haven't even managed the game yet, it's just brilliant. And then the other one as well is, you'll see it in Reading in the Years, the 1990 episode, when they come back to Ireland and Dublin is absolutely jammers and they're looking up at him, like, and they've done a brilliant tournament, quarterfinal, so close. And he says, you know, we've trained very well. We've prepared. We ate all the right things, and we drank very little. Pause. We're going to change that tonight. It's just unbelievable. It's
quality.
Like it's just those moments. And then finally for Jack too, when his final game against the Netherlands, and he's in the back seat of a car being dropped to the airport, and he just says, he just asks himself, like, you know, will I regret how this turned out? Only time will tell. And it's just such a beautiful way to end it. And you know, by all accounts, Jack was really upset that he didn't get to 10 years. He was just shy of 10 years, 86 to 95. But what success he brought. And Emma was saying it yesterday in our post-show meeting, is that Emma's dad, like, wasn't really into football until Italian 90 came around. And, you know, it was because of football in general, but that's purely because of Jack Charlton's influence and what he did. And, like, the football, like, as Eamon Dunphy would say, like, wasn't the best at times. But he brought football to the Irish consciousness, and, like, the Premier League has a lot to say, and the main reason is why everyone loves football in this country, in this generation of people like around my age. But I would say Jack started. Without Jack, there wouldn't be the interest in football. So
I'm stamping that nomination. What else have you got?
I say Davey Fitz. Davey Fitz.
Right.
He was on the show earlier this week, and just setting him up outside and just watching him on air, and just the way, like, he for me is the definition of charisma. It doesn't really matter what he's saying. Like, if it's a transcript of what Davey's saying, you're like, okay, fine, but it's just the way he delivers it, because he's so thoughtful. And there's a kind of an unpredictability to Davey. And a bit like your Roddy selection is that I'm not just putting Davey there because of his personality. Like, his CV is phenomenal. Like, what he did with Waterford first time round was excellent. And it's kind of unfinished business. And then, as a Cork person, what he did at Clare 2013 to win the replay, it's a brilliant achievement. And, like, he improved Wexford no ends. Like, everywhere he goes, and with Cork Camogie last year as well, or earlier this year even, he left in the summer. Everywhere he goes, he leaves his mark. And the Fittest family now, he's getting to this new wider audience.
You can't have a conversation about without including Davey Fitz.
There's just something, and
I would know what he's saying. If he's on air, if he's doing an interview, you want to click. You want to know what
that's
he's
exactly
saying.
it. And well, I mean, and that is the kind of intangible charisma about the guy, is that it doesn't really matter what topic he's covering. I think he's fascinating. And when I watched, like, the Fittest family, I'd be like, I'd love to be trained by him just to see what he'd bring out in me or someone else that I know, and how he deals with different personalities. He was very, very interesting with Jar and Shane earlier in the week. If people haven't seen it, like, genuinely well worth your time in terms of how he approaches individuals. Just, I'm endlessly fascinated.
Always be selling, Colm. No, we hear you.
And also, he's from Clare too, where my mother's from, so you know that kind of helps.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Go on.
And finally, I'd say I'd have Roy Keane.
Of course you would. There was no way we were getting through that list without him.
No, I'd have
It's
him.
also very fair, isn't it?
But I was clarifying with Adrian in one of his many ambiguous criteria for this. I was saying, does he have to be a successful manager, or can he be charismatic? And
I didn't ask enough questions.
I mean,
that's all right.
Charismatic.
Don't be taking the lead out of Colm's book, Aisling.
So I got a text there from a fan of the show, Rory McIlroy, saying, do not say Roy Keane before I even started, right? But I am going to say Rory and everyone else, because people do forget, actually, look, aside from the Ipswich stint, which I know is only like 50% of his managerial career, but the other 50%, he actually did a brilliant job at Sunderland, because when he came in, took over for them in August 2006, I think they were second bottom of the championship, and they won promotion that year. He turned them around completely. And in his first year in the Premier League, I think they got a top 10 finish. Correct me if I'm wrong out there, but I think they did very well. And it was the next summer he made his mistakes, because he started signing players that were probably the wrong fit for the club. He got a bit of money, and I think he was gone before Christmas. And it was a shame to see him go, and I think he regrets leaving as well. But, I mean, I don't need to explain to anybody why Roy Keane's charismatic. But anyway,
I think successful or not, it's Roy Keane.
Well,
is he the most charismatic Irish sports person of all time?
Oof. Do you know who I'd have? If we're talking about sports people, like Joe Brolly has to be on that.
Oh,
list.
yeah.
I mean, there's just no managerial.
But is...
career.
No, I won't say it.
Go on.
No, I was going to say it. No, I will say, Joe, I was like, is that kind of a not one-dimensional charisma, but like, I would say you do know what you're going to say with Joe Brolly. Like, unlike Davey, you don't know where he's going to come from. You have a fair idea.
You have no idea where you're going.
But with Joe it's in the ballpark of the same genre of what gets him going. But he's extremely entertaining and like eloquent when he's ironed by something. So I do like
so knowledgeable, so he backs it all up.
No, he's a brilliant talker, like outstanding. He'd be in my like top 10 most charismatic.
Who was the one you're on the verge of saying and not saying?
Well, I was close to Martin O'Neill. Yeah, and even though I really don't look back on his stint as Ireland manager with any great fondness beyond Italy at Euro 2016. It was brilliant, like it's great moments. But the way it ended, like that Northern Ireland friendly at Viva, and just I remember how kind of cutting he was in interviews. But I absolutely adored him at Celtic, because remember we talked about a week ago, like that his Celtic era, like I loved that team. I
mentioned him last night when I was doing this, but I thought, oh no, he doesn't qualify because of what Adrian
the rules weren't explained to you.
You just asked the question.
Got it wrong.
We'd have explained all that. I think look at any of those names, you can't really argue with too much. The another tip of the cap that I would have to be Kieran McGeeney. Like, you know, certainly charismatic, like knows how to hold a room, is very funny, like has been. I remember we were doing a crappy quiz recording down in Coppers a few years ago, and he was at the back. He was very reluctant to be brought forward to contribute, but was certainly at the back of the room shouting all sorts up at the stage.
Oh, serious?
Very.
I remember
very
my
funny,
first time interviewing him. It was probably my first ever game I covered, Mead against Armagh, and I was shaking interviewing him, because he's one of these people, like, but he's so lovely, loads of time for you, and definitely has to be up there as well.
Can we wrap a bow on the Irish coverage for the week? Your thoughts on Ireland after the two games?
We'll put a full stop on it here. I look at it. It was nervy at one point, wasn't it? It was like at 2-2. I was looking at that game. I actually felt a little bit physically sick, because I'd sort of got involved, you know, so much with the idea that, like everybody else, including, it turns out, the team, that we were going to win this game 2-0, and I was feeling a little bit looking at the thing, just that the whole thing was going to sort of implode almost in front of us. But I'm desperate for the team to succeed. I really am, like, just right across the board with them. They're playing lovely football. The results obviously totally understood. They can pass it, they can play it out from the back mostly, they can score worldies. Ireland can score worldies. Like, think about that for a second.
We would say that.
I have sat on panels before who were selecting the goal of the year for the Republic of Ireland, and it was almost a joke. It was almost a joke with the goals that would limp over the line. So let's not discount that part. The team comes from all sorts of backgrounds, and I love that about it. They're fully representative of Ireland 2022. Stephen Kenny, let's face it, is so far beyond what he could have imagined for himself as a manager. He just is. And I love the story of an underdog. I would love him to succeed because he shouldn't be there and all the distractors are like, who is this guy? He's never managed, blah, 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 blah. Because he's the underdog, he stands... Also, if you read anything or listen to him, anything he ever says, he stands for all the things that you would hope or aspire to. So I love him for that, and that's another reason why I want him to succeed. My kids are coming to an age where if Ireland were to qualify for the Euros in 2024 or for the World Cup next year, it would be an absolute bandwagon that we'd all be on.
Yeah.
It'll be something that they'll be able to remember.
Special
so
memories.
I want him to succeed for that. I agree totally with, listen to Damien Delaney on Virgin the other day and what he said, that Stephen Kenny doesn't have a monopoly on playing football with this Irish team. Totally buy into that. So if he was to depart at some point or another, that some other manager could come in and we could continue to play football. I do think there's a responsibility in the FAI almost in relation to that, to come out and say, here is our philosophy of football. That would be the thing that I think would make the people who are very invested in the success of Stephen Kenny relax a little bit, because if the FAI were to say that, then that totally informs the selection as to who would be the next Republic of Ireland manager. I think we could all breathe a sigh of relief knowing that our football philosophy, without being too lofty about it, was in safe hands. That's my view on it.
Yeah, I think we can't forget some of the performances, like against Scotland. It was so exciting, especially that first half. Like the football they were playing, I was like, I'm excited by this. I'm excited by them. And that's what we wanted for so long from an Ireland team. And then against Armenia, I was there on Tuesday. And in that first half, like I came away thinking Armenia are terrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrible. Their touch, everything. I was like, whoa, they are way off an international side. That's what I came away from that first half thinking. And then obviously into the second half, 70 minutes gone and they scored 2 goals from mistakes at the back, and I just thought, like, how can this be happening? And they were so lucky to go away, obviously getting the penalty. It was a absolute penalty, but they were lucky to come away with the win. And it's not a reflection on what Stephen Kenny is doing, and that's what I felt like. I think, you know, he has so many young players getting their caps. It's exciting football. You can see what he's trying to do. It's going to take time. You know, you don't have players for that long when they come into international duty, and, you know, they're finding their feet with all of this. And we don't know sometimes who's going to start. We don't know what team he's going to put out there. I wanted to see probably a little bit more of Ogbene, so I don't know what's going on with that situation. You know, I'd like to see a bit more of him. So yeah, there's exciting times, and we said about these worldy goals, like unbelievable. Michael Obafemi, like his touch to get that space and to shoot. Like I was talking to my uncle on the way home, and he was like, you know, like the way the Brazilians play, he's like, that's like, you know, we have a bit of that, and I'm like, geez, we have a bit of that.
But the detractors will tell you, oh, Stephen Kenny didn't score that goal. He probably wouldn't be in the team when he was Stephen Kenny, and he's given him the confidence. So like you can't say that and then say, you know, Kenny out. Yeah,
there's exciting times, but at the same time, to like what happened against Armenia was tough to watch in the end. It was very, very tough to watch, and it shouldn't have ended that way. And I think they'll all go away thinking that defensively there's issues. But yeah, I don't think we can be writing off Stephen Kenny whatsoever. There's exciting times to come, and you have to back him. We can't keep talking about, is he staying or going? I think we have to